Florida's Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd joins us via Skype. Sheriff, God bless you. Prayers of protection out there for you and those working with you, and thank you for joining us today.
Dana, it's good to be with you again.
Of course. You were very clear in your remarks that you made. There was a curfew that went into effect on Monday, as I understand, at 8 p.m., and you were telling the individuals who had, because there's a difference between peaceful protesters and the rioters that we have been seeing with the arson and the assaults and the total destruction of private property. And you were telling people, because there had been a lot of discussion on social media as to how far out these riots were going to extend. And you were warning them, look, this is, you can't target innocent people. What was your, let me ask that, what was your reaction to the way that this was presented in the media, even though your words can speak for themselves? And don't you think, instead of maybe perhaps misrepresenting or trying to frame illogically your words, that we could have a discussion about self-defense during times of riots? Maybe the media could report on that.
Absolutely, and I think you'll find that that's the majority of the problem across this nation now. They have exacerbated this entire event. It was a horrible thing that man was killed at the knee of that Minnesota police officer. But now this is morphed into riots and looting. And we received Facebook information that they were going to move into the neighborhood and, quote, take what is theirs from people. Well, when you can't protect yourself and your home from rioters, from people breaking in to rob, to steal, to set fire to your home, then we no longer have a nation. So I was shocked at some of the liberal media and some of the twist that they put on it. I'm very proud of what I said, and overwhelmingly the feedback here at the sheriff's office follows the same trends. They're very, very positive. So the overwhelming majority of the community is saying, you go, Sheriff, tell people the truth. And the truth is they have a right to protect themselves in their home, and they should. So then you have some of the media going, oh, well, he's inflaming. I tell you what, I'm not inflaming, but I am making it abundantly clear that I am encouraging our folks to prepare themselves to be safe at home. And if anyone, any robber, any looter thinks that they can break into your home and you're going to stand there and watch it, you're going to let them break in and beat you up and take your stuff, well, that's just craziness. I can assure you, someone breaks into my home, I'm going to shoot them, and I'm going to shoot them a lot. I'm going to shoot them so much that you can read a newspaper through them. And that's my recommendation to other people in our community. No. I'm not talking about your ex-girlfriend coming in to get her stuff back and you're mad at her. I'm talking about real looters, real criminals, and real robbers.
Right. And we've seen a lot of video, not even just I saw video, I guess this was in Minneapolis. There was a female business owner. She was just pleading with rioters, please do not, can you just spare my business, spare my business. They beat her with a 2x4 and a ladder. And her husband or her coworker or whomever came out with a golf club. She was already on the ground at that point. And I noticed that the discussion about this in other instances, because there are a lot of armed business owners in California that I saw a bunch of new video from yesterday. And apparently now the indignation is at these business owners even thinking about using lethal force against anyone that's arriving there to cause destruction. Well, Sheriff, and you can speak to this. If I'm a business owner, I don't want to guess whether or not the person that is busting up my business is going to stop at that, or if they're going to stop at arson, or if they're going to also attack me or anyone else. We saw one business owner nearly beaten to death in the street in Dallas. So why is it that the burden is always put upon these innocent people to determine the motives of the criminal and then figure out their response accordingly?
Well, and quite frankly, in the state of Florida, the burden is not on the victim. It's only placed on the victim by this crazy news media. I can assure you of one thing, in the state of Florida, you have the right to be in your business with your gun, and somebody knocks a window out of your business and jumps through the window to commit a forcible felony, And now the building is occupied by you. That even makes it a higher degree of felony. We have the right to protect ourselves and our businesses. So it's really simple. You knock that window out of a building and you rush in to set fire, to rob, to steal, and you get shot and killed. Whose fault is that? It's your fault. You chose to break into the store, and at the end of the day, you're at fault. So you break into the store, one of the owners shoots you, too bad for you.
It's a consequence of criminal activity for sure.
Absolutely.
I want to get your thoughts on a soundbite that it took place from the former vice president yesterday. And I thought this was really interesting. He had said that maybe perhaps when he was speaking of police and just also average Americans that carry firearms, he was saying that maybe instead of shooting center mass, as everyone who's ever taken a self-defensive handgun course or anything like that are taught, he says maybe they could just shoot to wound, like shoot them in the calf or something like that, which I thought was really dangerous rhetoric. And I wanted to get your thoughts on just not only the safety implications, but the legal implications of trying to enforce something like that.
Sure.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I thought we were going to play the piece.
Oh.
I can tell you clearly and unequivocally that there's no way you can control a gunshot that finitely to start with. And so if you injure or wound someone that obviously is presenting a grave assault upon you, then it's important to understand that they can continue to kill you. So you should never use force, deadly force, against someone else unless you believe that it's imminent, that you're in great danger of being significantly hurt and or getting killed.
Right.
So
I want to.
You start shooting at arms and legs and you miss, or you don't stop the threat, you don't neutralize the threat.
Right.
Well, you can be the next one dead.
This is the soundbite that we were referencing to for those
And
listening.
the idea that instead of standing there and teaching a cop when there's an unarmed person of coming at him with a knife or something, to shoot him in the leg instead of in the heart is a very different thing.
Because doesn't that kind of get into a weird legal territory that we're gonna? I feel like that there's a whole other aspect of that is going to present a lot of problems for law enforcement, because that's, again, it goes back to the statement you and I were, the point that you and I were just discussing, that when you are engaging in criminal activity, particularly, it doesn't matter what you're running at a victim with, you're assuming the consequence that could result as the choice of committing that criminality.
Of course, Dana. And think about this for a second. Somebody's charging at you with a knife, as the former vice president said, and you try to shoot them in the arm or the leg, and you miss, and then they stick the knife in you.
Yeah.
Now, how will that work for you? And the problem is, it's the person with the knife that's charging you in the first place. That's the problem. We don't have a responsibility and accountability on the right people anymore. If you have a lack of discipline, and you have an environment where people can do anything they want, anytime they want, without there being a bright yellow line or bright red line to stop them, then you end up with this conduct we've seen on the nightly news, where they're breaking into, robbing, and looting.
Right.
But I'll promise you one thing. The person in their store with a gun, and when they knock that window out and start in, when you shoot that first one, you don't have to shoot the second one, because they're out of there. They only understand force. You have to be able to meet force with force when you're being threatened.
Oh, there you go. A lot of sadness last night. There were a number of law enforcement officers. I was looking. We're talking to Polk County Sheriff from Florida, Grady Judd. I was looking at headlines from my hometown, St. Louis. 4 officers shot and killed, and I realize everyone wants a national discussion on policing. But in my last question to you, Sheriff, what is the best way to approach this, to rebuild relationships in various communities, between the community and between law enforcement? We've seen some really good examples of policing out here during these riots, and we've seen a lot of victims created and a lot of injustice spread in the name of injustice, which is ironic. But how do you, in your experience, how do leaders in law enforcement even go about repairing and trying to reform and build some of these relationships? Because that's what good policing, I think, is built on.
You're exactly right, Dana. That's a good question. One of the things that I coach here at the Sheriff's Office is you can't build relationships in the middle of a riot.
Oh, yeah.
So the agencies that are really having this overwhelming problem at this point in time have bad policies or no policies. They have bad relationships or no relationships. In our community, we work every day and have for decades building great relationships with our communities at every level, from elementary school and kindergarten through high school, through community events. We spend an inordinate amount of time. In fact, in my cell phone here are the contact numbers of the power players in all of the communities in this county. And I pick the phone up and I call them on a normal basis. And we have lunch and we have dinner and we interact at their church or at their social event. So when you do those things and you don't take yourself away from the community, but you immerse yourself in the community, then you don't have those events to begin with.
That's a great point. Florida Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd, we are very grateful for that you're out there protecting and serving, and all of those that are working with you. Our prayers for your safety. Thank you so much, Sheriff. Appreciate your words. God bless you.
Thank you, Dana.